Open any news app right now. Scroll for 30 seconds. Count how many stories make you feel good and how many make you feel afraid, angry, or anxious. The ratio is not an accident. It is not lazy journalism. It is not a conspiracy. It is a precise and deliberate calibration to something buried deep inside your brain, something that was shaped by 2 million years of survival pressure and is now being exploited with extraordinary efficiency every single day. Your brain is addicted to bad news. And understanding why that is true changes everything about how you experience the world you live in. The technical name for it is negativity bias. Psychologist Roy Baumeister at the University of Queensland has spent decades studying how negative information affects the human mind, and his research produced a finding that is as elegant as it is disturbing. Bad is stronger than good. That is the entire principle. In virtually every domain of human psychology, negative events, emotions, and information have a greater impact on your mind than equally intense positive ones. A loss hurts more than an equivalent gain feels good. A single insult lingers longer than a compliment. One bad day can overshadow a week of good ones. The asymmetry is not subtle. It is massive and consistent across cultures, ages, and contexts. Why would your brain be built this way? The answer is straightforward once you think about it from an evolutionary perspective. Imagine two of your ancestors living in the same environment 100,000 years ago. One of them pays equal attention to good news and bad news. A fruit tree over there, a predator moving in the grass over here, both register with the same weight. The other pays dramatically more attention to threats. The rustle in the grass occupies the mind completely. The fruit tree is noted but not obsessive. Which ancestor survives longer? Which one passes their genes forward? The one who could not stop thinking about the threat. The one whose brain treated danger as categorically more important than opportunity. You are descended from that ancestor. Your brain is built with their architecture. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux at New York University has studied the amygdala, the brain's threat detection and emotional processing center, for decades. His research shows that the amygdala activates faster and more powerfully in response to negative stimuli than positive ones. The neural pathways that carry threat information to the amygdala are faster and more direct than the pathways that carry positive information. Your brain is literally wired to process bad news before good news. It was built for a world where missing a threat could kill you, and missing an opportunity was merely unfortunate. That asymmetry in consequence produced an asymmetry in neural architecture that you are still living with today. This architecture has a name in cognitive science. It is called the negativity dominance effect. And in the ancestral environment where it developed, it worked beautifully. A brain that snapped to attention at the sight of a predator, that remembered which plants were poisonous for years after a single bad experience, that treated social rejection as a near-catastrophic signal, was a brain that kept its owner alive. The emotional weight attached to negative events was not a flaw. It was adaptive precision. But here is where the ancient system collides with the modern world in ways that produce something no evolutionary process could have anticipated. Your amygdala cannot distinguish between a predator in the grass and a news headline about violence 3,000 miles away. It cannot distinguish between a real social threat from someone in your immediate community and an angry comment from a stranger on the internet. The same neural alarm system that kept your ancestors alive in a world of genuine physical danger now fires in response to an unlimited stream of manufactured information specifically engineered to trigger it. Because here is the other half of this story. The people who design news feeds, social media algorithms, and attention-based media platforms know about your negativity bias. Not because they studied evolutionary psychology in school, although some of them did, but because the data tells them clearly and constantly what works. Negative content generates more clicks, more shares, more engagement, more time on platform. The algorithm learns this immediately. It optimizes for it relentlessly. The result is an information environment that has been precision-tuned to activate the most ancient and reactive parts of your brain as frequently and as intensely as possible. Researcher Jonah Berger at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania studied what kinds of content go viral, and his findings reveal that emotionally activating content, particularly content that triggers anxiety and anger, spreads significantly faster and further than neutral or positive content. Your negativity bias is not just affecting how you feel. It is shaping what information travels through society. The things that spread the widest and fastest are the things that trigger the oldest and most reactive parts of your brain. What does this produce? A distorted picture of reality. Psychologist Steven Pinker at Harvard University has written extensively about the gap between how the world is actually doing by objective measurable metrics and how people perceive the world to be doing. By almost every measure that can be quantified, human life has improved dramatically over the past 2 centuries. Fewer people die in wars. Fewer people live in extreme poverty. Child mortality has fallen. Literacy has risen. Life expectancy has extended across almost every country on Earth. These are not marginal changes. They are transformations of historic scale. And yet study after study finds that most people in wealthy countries believe the world is getting worse. Not better. Worse. Significantly, confidently, often angrily worse. The gap between that perception and the data is not ignorance. It is your negativity bias, fed by an information ecosystem that profits from activating it. The bad news gets amplified. The gradual good news, which accumulates slowly and lacks a dramatic moment, gets ignored. Your brain is built to notice the tiger in the grass. It was never built to notice the slow, undramatic absence of tigers over a generation. And the consequences of living inside this distorted picture are not trivial. Chronic activation of the threat response system produces physiological stress. Cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, was designed for short-term emergencies, not for sustained daily exposure to a stream of alarming content. Chronic elevated cortisol is associated with impaired immune function, disrupted sleep, cardiovascular strain, and compromised cognitive function. The news is not just making you anxious. It is affecting your body in ways that accumulate over time. Psychologist Graham Davey at the University of Sussex ran a study in which participants watched different kinds of news and then were asked to rate their moods and worry levels. The group that watched negative news not only felt worse but catastrophized more about their own unrelated personal problems. Watching bad news about the world made their personal anxieties about their own lives larger and more threatening. The negative framing bled outward from the screen into the texture of their private experience. None of this means the news does not matter. Some of it does matter enormously. Staying informed is not the problem. The problem is that the system delivering information to you is not designed to inform you accurately. It is designed to capture and hold your attention, and it does this most effectively by targeting the exact cognitive vulnerability your ancestors developed to survive in a world of real physical danger. You are using a threat detection system calibrated for lion attacks to process a global feed of curated catastrophe. The mismatch is profound. What can you do with this knowledge? Understanding that your reaction to negative news is partly a biological reflex rather than a purely rational assessment of reality gives you something important. It gives you the ability to notice the reflex. Not to suppress it, not to ignore the news, but to introduce a small gap between the stimulus and the response. To ask, when the anxiety spikes and the catastrophizing starts, whether what you are feeling corresponds to your actual circumstances or to an ancient alarm system that cannot distinguish between a predator and a news notification. Your brain was built to keep you alive in a dangerous world. It did that job extraordinarily well for hundreds of thousands of years. But the dangerous world it was built for was local, physical, and bounded. The world it is operating in now is global, digital, and infinite. And the people who understand that mismatch best are not doing it for your benefit. They are doing it for your attention. Open any news app right now. Scroll for 30 seconds. The ratio you find is not an accident. It is your biology being used against you. And now, at least, you know what is happening.